Thank you, Mrs. Crowland, for that really warm introduction. And might I say the biography of me in the program is actually far too long and generous. You really shouldn't have let me write it myself. It is such an honor to be back at Shady Side. This school, more than any other place, made me the person that I am today. Of course, it's not all Shady Side's fault. My parents are to blame too. But I'm humbled to speak today, not least because I feel underqualified to give advice. After working post-college, as you said, I'm now back to being a student myself. When you're almost a 30-year-old student, by the way, you're just as excited to skip Monday class, so thank you all for getting me out of my boring lectures today. Now that I've said that, I'll ask you not to post this to YouTube until after I get my grades. As a student, I know how hard these Cum Laude recipients worked for this distinction. It's a privilege to share their stage and to be with all the parents who look proudly on them. A decade out of Shady Side, I'm so impressed by the accomplished and decent people that my classmates are becoming. So I know that you too will live up to your promise. Now I'd add that 10 years on, some of my most successful classmates got Cum Laude, and just as many didn't. So for those who aren't on the stage, plenty of opportunities await you, and every one of you is prepared to seize them. And for those on the stage, enjoy this day. You earned it. Then renew yourself for the hard work that lies ahead. And though today we celebrate your classroom achievement, my first message isn't academic. It's about how you care for each other here. And it's addressed especially to the underclassmen, because you have the most time left to shape your high school experience and the experience of those around you. When my classmates and I think back to our time at Shady Side, we remember most of all when our friends stood by us. I recall one experience with my friend Alex at Shady Side Middle School. Alex and I knew each other well because we spent most of our early teenage weekends at Science Olympiad competitions in suburban Ohio. We were pretty cool. But what I remember most about Alex is one act of loyalty. In 7th grade, everyone started playing these computer games during class in this Sight mini clip. It became so distracting that teachers banned it in the computer lab. If you played it, you got 2 points, which, unlike Hogwarts, at the middle school, points were a bad thing. But one day I convinced Alex to sit with me as I snuck in one quick game. Soon enough, we heard a teacher's voice behind us. "Mr. Costa, what are you doing?" Now, I should have just closed the browser, but I panicked. Instead, I just lunged and bear-hugged the screen. And as the teacher began prying me off, I looked to Alex desperately. Now, Alex obeyed rules, but he knew these were the times that tried men's souls. And in a moment of heroism, Alex rushed across the room to the control panel. Frantically, he began ripping cords out of the wall. It was a domino effect. He yanked a cord, boom, one computer went off. He yanked another, 2 computers down, until finally my computer went dark. In the end, we succeeded in avoiding 2 points. Instead, full detention. I don't recall getting disciplinary action after that. We learned to listen to our teachers, but I learned another lesson from Alex too. He wasn't playing the game. He could have walked away scot-free, but instead he had my back. And I still remember it. Of course, school can also be an unwelcoming place. The other day I told a friend I was headed back to high school to speak, and we reminisced on her experience at a different school. She's now in her mid-30s and recalled a few good memories. But what struck me was the detail with which she remembered those who mistreated her. The girls who shoved her in the gym locker room, the boy who once muttered a sexist slur in the hall. She's forgiven them, but she hasn't forgotten. And it would be naive to think that doesn't happen at most schools. We can't always choose how our classmates treat us, but we can always choose how we treat them. Even more than its intellectual imprint, this school helps shape character. And for that, you can be grateful. So my first message, treat all your classmates as friends, and be loyal to your friends. That's what they'll remember. And if you do that, the friendships will survive graduation. My computer lab battle probably wasn't as epic as I recall, But you'll find over the years that the narrative evolves. Even if you don't remember exactly how it went down, you'll always remember how it felt. You'll remember the characters and how they treated you. And because we cared for each other at Shady Side, this was such an open and safe place to learn and grow. That brings me to my second message, which is for the upperclassmen. And it's about what this school offers and how you can take it with you. Because the sun is setting on your time here, and you'll soon be off to college. When I think back to my own college experience, it was Shady Side that prepared me to make the most of it. I did speech and debate all 4 years here, and Mrs. Crowlin was my coach the entire time. Even though Shady Side was and is a place with resources, the team ran on a shoestring budget and entirely on our back. In fact, compared to many public schools with far bigger debate budgets, we often felt like the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team against the Russians. I'll always remember those debate days fondly, waking up before dawn to head to a different school, often a small Catholic school whose old furnishings felt stuck in time, heavy metal lockers, faded black chalkboards, manual pencil sharpeners on the wall, and then seeing North Allegheny, the Russians, roll up with twice as many students, professional debate trainers in tow. It felt like an old movie. We were the underdog squad, barely enough students to compete, but led by one iron lady, determined her children would prevail. Because Mrs. Crowlin was also a judge, she'd never discuss who won a debate round before results were revealed. But after a critical round, my partner and I, anxiously awaiting the outcome, would peek into the judge's room through the window. We'd catch eyes with Mrs. Crowlin. She'd pause, stone-faced, and then just the slightest smile. We knew we'd survive to the next round. Speech and debate helped shape my academic life since leaving Shady Side, but it wasn't just my experience on the team. In hindsight, Shady Side is the school that most encouraged expression, debate, and truth, more in my estimation than either Harvard or Yale. In fact, I recall the great historian David McCullough returning to Shady Side my junior year here and saying he found his early college years a bit of a disappointment compared to Shady Side. And though I loved my time at college, I now know what he meant. Never since leaving Shady Side have I walked miles with a teacher meditating on religion, as we did regularly around this quad with Dr. Satula, our beloved philosophy teacher. Never since leaving Shady Side have I spent hours exploring political theory over tea at a teacher's home, as I did with Mr. Nilsson, a history teacher whose class I wasn't even in. Never since leaving Shady Side have I understood math so clearly, although Miss Whitney might contest that I ever really did. But I'll never forget how reciprocal fractions work, because in a live class demonstration, Mr. Curry literally flipped me upside down by my ankles. It's true. Never since leaving Shady Side have I ever been so encouraged to critically examine American history as by Mrs. McCarthy and Miss Green, while also taught such love of country as inspired by Dr. O'Neill in his civics course. I still remember whenever he assigned too much homework, my classmate Lauren sighed, "Oh, God." And he interrupted, please, Lauren, just call me Dr. O'Neill." And never since leaving Shady Side have I had 3 teachers at the same time dedicated to a question I had. But I remember my mentor, Mrs. Rosenberg, sitting with Miss Haas and Mr. Kriebel to solve some obscure Spanish grammar problem for an hour, long after the bell had rung. No matter where you head next year, you're not going to get a 1-to-3 student-to-faculty ratio like that. When you go off to college, you'll meet many renowned scholars, many brilliant researchers, and many caring professors. But you'll never again have teachers like the ones at Shady Side. Value them. Listen when they tell you to stop playing computer games, and stay in touch with them. I still talk by phone with some of my teachers every few months from Shady Side, and I'm not the only one. When you graduate, many of these teachers will become your friends. Now, some of them will become your Facebook friends and you'll quickly run away to Instagram, although I do love the passion of Mr. Weiss's posts. All Shady Side students, past and present, are blessed to have these teachers, so please join me in thanking every one of them. What I remember most about the academic experience here is that no idea was stupid, no well-intended question off limits, and no one was exempt from critical thought. When you get to college in the fall, the biggest difference will be that most of what you learn won't come from professors, but from classmates, from the 2 a.m. conversations in your dorm rooms. And make time for those, even if it means one less chapter in the textbook, because that's where so much of the value comes from. Colleges bring together on one campus people from all over the globe, people who may not only disagree with your opinions, but who have different paradigms for viewing the world. And you'll be surrounded by some of the brightest students in the country, people from the coasts, Manhattan, Connecticut. They'll offer you challenging and rewarding discussions. And at first, they might intimidate you. Let me tell you now, each and every one of you is as smart and prepared as they are. But you're also tougher. Yeah, you went to this nice, bougie school, but you're still Pittsburgh kids. And Pittsburgh kids always come out swinging like Mazeroski. And that Pittsburgh medal will serve you well. Your senior class is entering college at a challenging time. As American society becomes increasingly polarized, mistrustful, even hateful of those with whom we disagree, American colleges themselves are in the midst of a crisis of speech and a crisis of listening. The range of ideas tolerated on campus is narrowing, but you can't know something is a bad idea until you grapple with it. Unpopular ideas, heretical ideas, Galilean ideas, these are the ones that progress civilization. And time again, those who thought that suppressing destructive ideas would stop them only made them stronger. So if next year you hear an idea you think is wrong, I encourage you not to cover your ears or to shout it down. Confront it, test it, perhaps defeat it, and all the while remain open to being convinced. Shady Side has prepared your minds well for this task, but you'll soon find that the biggest challenge isn't intellectual, it's social. It's developing the courage to be the first or only person in the classroom to push the conversation. There is little scarier than risking the disapproval of your classmates, friends. But if you hear a voice in your head saying something's wrong with the consensus, you probably aren't the only one. But you can be the only one with enough courage to say something. I believe this school, this community, this city have prepared you to do just that. And perhaps even more important, listen. When you're a younger student, especially a high school debater like I was, it's easy to confuse speaking and winning, listening and losing. But really, it's almost the opposite. When you speak, you're doing someone else a service, giving them your thoughts. And when you listen, you're the one benefiting because you're gaining something that isn't already in your head. So my final message to the seniors, when you get to college, don't be afraid to speak up and be humble enough to listen. And as for today, I think you've all listened long enough. So thank you. Congratulations and best of luck. Make Shady Side proud.